So rain doesn't deter freedom, weak men do. So that's why I'm glad you guys are here. My name is Anders. I do a daily podcast / spaces on Twitter with my good friend Pop Lord called Toxic Happy Hour, where we are toxic towards scams that delay the adoption of global sound money, which is what we need for freedom. Good afternoon, Massachusetts, and welcome to a historic event in a historic city. It's my first time here. It's beautiful. So this is the first Freedom Festival by Bitcoin Mass Adoption. And this is important because Bitcoin, many of us believe, give us back the freedom that's been taken away from us. And that's what we're here to talk about today. All right, so first up, we're gonna listen to a short audio clip by from Natalie Smolenski. Let me allow to introduce her real quick. So she is the executive director of Texas Bitcoin Foundation, which is producing original research and education, or educating the public about the value and promise of Bitcoin. She's also a senior fellow of the Bitcoin Policy Institute, which does research and advocacy to better our understanding of Bitcoin and monetary networks. To talk about this, first we're gonna hear it, but to talk about this afterwards, we have Greg Foss, Larry Leopard over there. If you put your hand up when I say your name, that's cool. Yeah, Greg Foss, Larry Leopard. We've got Jeremy Garcia, Hailey Lennon, Michelle Weekley. Last but not least, Bitcoin Bowler. All right, let's roll the clip and listen to this message.
Hi, I'm Natalie Smolenski. Today, I'm here to talk with you about the direction our country is heading and why that should matter to you. The United States of America was founded on the radical idea that all people are created equal. No matter where you come from, who your ancestors are, how much money you have, your gender, or the color of your skin, the goal of the American experiment has been to achieve this ever more perfect union. It is an unfinished project that we continue to work toward. Throughout our history, we have adjusted our way of life many times in the direction of equality, liberty, and opportunity. We have demonstrated that with ingenuity, guided by principle, there is nothing the American people cannot achieve. But today, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Government power has been growing so fast for so long that it seems that the American people no longer have much of a say in what happens in our name. If we want our experiment of liberty and justice for all to survive, we Americans have to have a basic agreement about what the role of government is in our society. The government has no rights. People have rights. Governments are legitimate only insofar as they protect those rights. Two political parties use the power and the money lent to the government by the American people to each fight their own wars. The federal government alone will spend almost $7 trillion. Our national debt is almost $32 trillion. Do you feel like your life is getting better every year that the government spends more money? Or do you feel like it's getting worse? Did you know that your constitutional rights have been suspended since the Carter administration because every president wants to declare his own states of emergency? The world is changing rapidly. The US is no longer the world's only superpower, able to make the rules for everyone else. But that was never the dream of the founding fathers anyway. They imagined that America would be a shining example of liberty, not dominion, like President John Quincy Adams said, or with malice toward none, with charity for all, as President Lincoln said. If you want to see a presidential candidate who genuinely believes in smaller government, in giving you money back and getting rid of the laws that trample our liberties and our opportunities, reach out to your state's party headquarters and let them know. The parties need to hear that there are voters that want this. Otherwise, they'll keep running candidates who want to control you and who use culture wars to scare you into voting to take your own rights away. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you for listening to that. It's all about freedom. So we got a bunch of people up here, and I'd love to hear each of your, if you have any thoughts on that or anything related to that. So let's roll with that. Greg Foss, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks, Anders. Thanks, everyone, for coming. First off, I want to shout out to the organizers of the event. I'm going to tell you, this is going to be bigger than Bitcoin Miami someday, okay? Because Boston is Bitcoin. Boston is freedom. I like to say that New York City is fiat, but we'll leave that aside. So thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting freedom. I want to thank particularly my Canadian trucker friends, Saba. That's an amazing, amazing truck, eh? And incredible fight that man has been through. Let's go to, first of all, welcome to my friends on the stage as well. I want to make sure everyone understands. Bitcoin does not care. Bitcoin doesn't care if you're a woman, a man, you're black, you're white, Chinese. Bitcoin is for everybody, and that's why I'm so excited to be here. So let's talk about Natalie's great presentation or note. First of all, Natalie Smolenski is one of the smartest people I have ever listened to, and I encourage you to continue to listen to her. Texas Blockchain Council is working for freedom, and I support freedom. So let's be clear about this. I support the Canadian trucker convoy because I support freedom. I am not anti-vax. I am pro-freedom of choice. And that's why I love Bitcoin. I am pro-freedom. And that's, I think, what Natalie was saying. Bitcoin supports freedom. She brought up things like the $7 trillion deficit. And on top of that, $32 trillion of accumulated US debt. If you do the math, it doesn't work. Fiat needs to be continually printed, which means the value of your fiat dollar will continue to debase. I like to say that's pure mathematics. So I support Natalie in the need for people to rise up and let the politicians know that we can't stay on this path. I'm from Canada. I want to thank you guys for including me in your party. I do live in your attic, okay? I live rent-free in the attic of the United States, and I heard a good expression. Us Canadians live rent-free in your attic, but you guys have no idea that we have your Wi-Fi password and your Netflix codes as well. So, GFY, not go fuck yourselves. Greg Foss loves you. GFY, Greg Foss hearts you. Thank you for being here. Honest to God, I love Boston, Surfer Jim, my friends on stage. That's the last thing I'm going to say. I promise you that, because I'm going to leave the stage right now and leave it to people who I'm so proud of. Young ladies, Spanish or Mexican Americans, white Americans, black Americans, fat white Canadians, Bitcoin doesn't care. Thanks for having me, you guys. It really means the world to me.
Thanks, Greg. Michelle Weekley, your thoughts right now in this moment?
No pressure.
No pressure at all, but everyone are paying attention right now, and there's a camera rolling.
I'm gonna let Hailey go. No, I'm really, really excited to be here. I came up from Florida just to be here. I think it's a super important event. I got into Bitcoin for the tech, to be honest. I grew up working in tech startups, and that took me abroad. So from 2015-ish until 2018, I lived in Dubai. I spent a lot of time working in China, and when I came back to the States in 2018, I really experienced a level of culture shock that is extremely hard to explain. I looked around and it was not the same country that I had left. Everything had changed. And I said to people, you know, at least in Dubai, at least in China to some extent, the rules are clear. So there's pros and cons, obviously, to the different structures of government. But to me, what's happening in America, the expansion of the federal government and the continually changing rules and laws and how they're not applied equally is terrifying. Because it makes me feel less safe and less free here than I did in Dubai. The number one question I get when I talk about living in the Middle East is, oh, you're a woman, it must have been terrible. And I'm like, no, it was fantastic. Because Oh shit, sorry. So I was talking about living in the Middle East and how actually in many ways I felt more free over there because yes, there are more rules, but they are applied evenly and the rules are really clear. So when I came back to the States in 2018, everything had changed and that's terrifying to me and it's only rapidly accelerated since then. So I think Bitcoin is really, really important because it's freedom for women and for everyone, no matter where they're from, but most importantly, freedom from the government.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have seen Scarface, but he said something very profound, actually. First, because we're talking about freedom, and some of you might wonder, why do we think Bitcoin is freedom? And I want to try and explain it as simple as I can. As Scarface said, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. So let's leave out the last part. That's not what we're here to focus about. But money is really the power structure from which you are in charge of things. And what we have with a Federal Reserve, which, by the way, is not federal and there is no reserve. It's owned by private families, right? And most people don't know that. But he who has the money printer can get to steal the value of all of our work because we all have dollars, and when they print more, they take our time, our value, our labor. So that's the relation with Bitcoin and freedom. And Bitcoin, they don't control it. It's money taken away from the government. They can't dilute it. They can't steal the value of our time. And that's what's so important for us to have freedom and not be financially enslaved to those families. Hailey Lennon, please take it away. Your thoughts.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm a partner at Brown Rudnick, a law firm. We have a practice that specializes in crypto litigation and all things enforcement action. And so I'm in a very interesting space where individually I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I've invested for a long time. Career-wise, I'm focused on how do I help companies deal with the ever-growing presence of regulators and the government and laws that kind of restrict the liberty of this industry to grow. And one thing I'll say is that, you know, there are reasons that laws exist, but when it really goes against a free market and the liberties of an industry and innovation to grow, that's where you start to see a lot of the friction points that we're seeing now. And so I work daily interacting with regulators, trying to explain how there can be a place for them, and it doesn't have to be necessarily that they're like the enemy of this industry that has a purpose. And I think part of the reason Bitcoin is such sort of a threat to regulators and the government is that they thrive off having that control and that ability to print money, inflation, monetary control, and what that means for the United States in a global economy. But what I love about Bitcoin is there's really no regulation or country that can change the trajectory of Bitcoin. It's here to stay, and it's evolving and, you know, moving in a direction unrelated to what regulators or the government think of it. So, you know, what Natalie said at the beginning I think is very true. We've seen just a continued increase in the government and regulation wanting to put a stop to this, give, you know, control back to the government. And there's something really powerful about even this event, people just getting together on a Saturday to share ideas of why this is so important for, you know, sovereignty and personal freedom. So I'm very happy to be here.
So next up is Jeremy Garcia.
Hey, pleasure to be here. I'm from New Mexico. Glad to be here with all my plebs. I'm in Bitcoin for all the same reasons as you all, but I'm going to give you the probably top three, I guess. I have a 3-year-old son, and I'm in Bitcoin for him. As Foss says, as right here, as Foss says, we're here for the children, or an iteration of that. My son is my world, and they're the future. And unfortunately, in our education system, we don't get taught about money, and that needs to change. And there's a lot of excellent plebs that are trying to change that, and we all do our best, whether it's on Twitter Spaces, whether it's with educational pieces to educate our children, and we need to do that, and we need to do that more. I don't like politics, so I'm not going to talk about it, but I think that Bitcoin is going to be a wrecking ball to politics. It's going to change politics. The politics as we know it is going to be a whole different world. How, I don't know, but it's definitely going to be a wrecking ball. And the other reason is just because of all you guys, the plebs. I've met the greatest people in the world on Twitter Spaces and here at Pacific Bitcoin Conference. It's one thing being on Twitter Spaces for hours listening to your guys' voices, but it's a whole nother thing meeting you in person. So we, the people, we make the decision. It's not the politicians' decisions. That's how it was always supposed to be. And we still have the power in the people. So we should never forget that, and just embrace Bitcoin, stay humble, stack sats, and thank you guys for the opportunity to be here.
Next up, my good friend Larry Leopard.
So
Please.
most of you know who I am because I'm a master shit poster and make a lot of noise on Twitter. It's an honor to be here, really. First of all, Jeff and Greg, kudos to you for pulling this thing off. It's really a fabulous event. Everybody give these guys a round of applause. They did a ton of work. I saw it behind the scenes. We may be small, but we're mighty. You know, that truck over there and the Canadian, I mean, I was moved to tears last night when I met Bridget, the organizer of the Canadian truckers protest, and BJ Dichter is here, who wrote the book about it. And that trucker who brought his truck in here, that truck is really all of us. We're going to fight for everybody else until they can fight for themselves, right? The fact of the matter is we are being screwed by the powers that be and the monetary system and the political system that exists in this country, and we're going to fight back. And evil laugh, we're going to fucking win, okay? These guys are absolutely cooked. There's no doubt about it. We've got history on our side, we've got ethics on our side, we've got honor on our side, and we've got the truth on our side. Those things always win. Yesterday, Anders and I went downtown because I was showing in Boston and went to the old meeting house, and we saw all the things that led up to the shot held around the world, you know, the Boston Massacre and all the guys and how they kind of rallied around, you know, the leaders at the time. Paul Revere went on his ride, and you know, the British were marching out towards, you know, actually I learned that they were going to Watertown before they went to Concord. And, you know, the guys, we didn't wear red suits. We shot from behind the fucking trees, and we wiped them out. We cleaned them up. And at the time, you know, if you read the history of it all, it wasn't every American that was a revolutionary. And at the time, the consensus was, there's no way this ragtag bunch of guys living in New England and Virginia and other parts of America, there's no way these guys are going to beat the British. This is a British fucking empire, right? It's been around for hundreds of years. It's got control of the navies. They've got all the ships. They got all the money. They got all the power. They got fractional reserve banking. They got all the evil shit that the people who are running the world today have. And yet these guys won. And they won because of a bunch of Scotch-Irish guys up in the fucking mountains, down in Kings Mountain, took Cornwallis and kicked the living shit out of them. And when they did that, the fucking British surrendered. And that's what's going to happen. And Cornwallis is fucking Ben Bernanke or Jay Powell or whoever you want to call it. These fucking fiat people, they are going to lose. We are going to win. They are going to lose. That's what I'm here to say. I think everybody in this room believes it, and that's what we're fighting for. And it's worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for it for ourselves. It's worth fighting for it for our kids. And I think in the lens of history, the people who adopted this movement early and were proud enough to stand up and fight for this shit, it's going to matter. And even if it doesn't matter, I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep fighting for it. I think everybody here feels the same way. And I encourage you all to keep fighting and orange pill absolutely everybody you can. That's all I got to say.
So it's funny you mentioned that, Larry. I'm just checking Twitter right now, and we are winning. Bitcoin are winning, so we're good. We're just watching it play out, really. So that's cool. We are winning. Next up, Bitcoin Bowler, the artist.
Greetings. My name is Bandele L. I was from Louisiana, live in Malibu, and so happy to be back here in Boston. When I was here before, I had no idea about Bitcoin, and I'm so happy to know that this trip here, it was for the purpose, it is for the whole movement of Bitcoin, and to see all my Boston friends, all my Bitcoiners here, and for us to be on this stage representing freedom. I think about all the indigenous people of my ancestors who fought in all the wars, and to be standing here, sitting here, and to see and know that freedom, when it comes to Bitcoin, is for the fight. You know, it's really about being patient. All I see is if you can be patient, then you're good. Okay, don't get caught up in what you see in the media. Just let this thing play out, because it's so much bigger than all of us, y'all. It is so much bigger. We just happen to be chosen to be in our position, and so it's so early, but yet we have such a great responsibility, and that is to just stand and to stay together and to continue to know the value and that this purpose is so much bigger, and for us to just stay humble, and like our friends, our brothers say, just keep on stacking your sats, you know, and don't get caught up, and stay focused, and knowing that this purpose is all about freedom for not just America, but freedom for all the people of the world, y'all. Freedom for the people, and y'all gonna love it in the song too. I can't wait to perform it for y'all.